Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's Connor here. We are back with another One Leeds video. Yes, I'm looking like John Motson. I know the microphone stand needs to be adapted, needs to be mended, but we are going to be back with content continuously. Where is the Leeds United flag, I hear you ask? It's in the cupboard. I forgot to put it up, but that's preparation for you. We're back here with another edition of the Debrief, of which I'm going to try up to potentially twice a week. Exciting news, I know, everybody. But before we start the stream this evening, where we're going to be talking about Ipswich flopping, Leicester stopping, and Leeds United continuing their surge, please, would you like the video? Make sure you subscribe and comment in on all of the One Leeds videos. If you've got some bonus content, we will be uploading to Patreon. We will. Don't worry. I'll have a little bit more time now, but we'll get into that in the near future. But without any further ado, I would like to introduce my two very esteemed guests, Gabe the American and Oscar. How are we doing, lads? All good?
All good, mate. All good.
Ipswich flopping, Leicester stopping. The two of you are now French cropping. I'm really happy.
Hey. Do you know what? I didn't even line that up either. Just sometimes it comes to you, Oscar. Do you know what I mean?
You'll get that third one in. You got to get that third one in. Just two rhyming. You got to get that third rhyme in there. But that's why Gabe is the poet amongst us.
And doesn't he know it?
Yeah. There you go. I don't know what I'm getting the blame for in the chat. It just says blame Oscar if in doubt, but I'll take it.
Yeah, as well. I think Gabe made a really solid point earlier on. And everybody in the chat, me and Oscar, our haircut they've gone. It's down at the minute, and Gabe did start the trend. Really, the French crop wasn't a massive fan of him calling it a French crop. It's more like a Chavy Roadman style here in England, which
it's
we've
a
just
Phil
adopted.
Foden in England.
Yeah, Phil Foden. Yeah. But it's interesting how me and Oscar probably had quiffs beforehand, Gabe, and now we've just reverted to each other's hairstyle. We've gone French crop, and you've gone quiff. So it's all reversal here.
The thing is, as the elder statesman of the group, I feel a certain responsibility to lead us forward into a positive direction. And to be honest, felt standards were starting to get a little bit lax with all this comb forward. So back to the quiff, everybody.
Yeah.
Oscar, you were wearing a hat the other day that people said swallowed your head.
Yeah, I didn't need a cut at that point. It had got ridiculously long at that point, to be fair.
You were hiding it.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't my proudest week, that, until my barber, she got a book to go, and I was thinking, this is going to be the longest week going this, and it's just like, this is getting ridiculous.
Graham's killing us here. Bog off haircuts. Kevin says, where is Brownie? Brownie will be back tomorrow with myself doing a preview tonight. I'd have loved to have had him on tonight. He just can't do tonight. He has commitments coming out of his ears, that boy. Football. Okay, chaps. Well, let's, I guess, get into Leicester, which was an exceptionally pleasing performance, an exceptionally pleasing Friday, and I have to say, on the debrief, I don't think any of us predicted a win. I could be wrong.
I did.
But I don't think any of us predicted. I think the closest was we said, didn't we? Did you predict a win?
Sure did. 2-1 win. I predicted.
I think we had the nuance that Joe Rodon was fit. I think if Joe Rodon wasn't fit, I think we're all going like 3-4-0 Leicester. But Rodon obviously being
was fit.
He was fit. You're correct.
And he's
what he's doing here. He's trying to take credit away from me for everything.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Gabe did say 8-0 if Liam Cooper was playing. That was on the group chat.
I think I did say that.
But yeah, so fantastic, really good. We'll keep it short and sweet about the game because people in football are always want to be going on the next thing, don't they? And what's coming up and all this sort of stuff. We've got other teams to talk about as well, not just Leicester. Let the cat out of the bag there. But start with you, Gabe. Fantastic from Leeds United, start to finish, professional, efficient, and clinical. Yeah, I thought Leeds were really, really good.
Yeah, it was, and it just goes to show the trauma we've all been through as Leeds fans, because I didn't enjoy a bit of that match. It was a great game of football. We played really, really well, and I had a stress headache, shooting pains in my neck. And to be honest, and all I could do is pick out things. Maybe I've just been around you too long, Connor. Now I just pick out things that I see that I dislike as the match goes on. But joking aside,
it's a horrible curse. You just can't get rid of it.
Yeah, and joking aside, just as the commenter just said there, Glenn Kamara was fantastic. The midfield, I think I want to give myself a little shout out here. I did say that if we win the battle in the midfield, I think that the match is there to be won. And I think our midfield bossed theirs. For all we've heard all season long about their midfield, our midfield looks superior to theirs. Glenn Kamara and Ethan Ampadu had excellent matches. They covered a lot of ground, and it wasn't just, mindless running. It was excellent, industrious work.
But I was told that several times
that Harry Winks was the best.
That Harry Winks was the best player in the championship. So it must be my bad reading of the game. Didn't spot him that many times in that first or second half, to be honest.
Looked like Harry Twinks, to be honest. He was terrible, and he got bossed around by those other two. And
I was going to say something else, but it got Connor demonetised. That was rhyming with inks.
Can anybody in the comment section guess?
It's fine.
Can anybody in the comment section guess what Oscar was going to rhyme Winks with? Do it in the comment section. But Nate says Dewsbury Hall is still the best midfielder in the league. Yeah. I mean, we all know he's exceptionally
true, but he wasn't on the day, and that's what matters. And I think the big question we had about
Harry's got it.
I was like, okay, we won't pull that up, but yeah,
it's got a rhyme though, Oscar.
Some good ones.
Yeah, it's more the NKS bit that rhymes.
Yeah, I suppose it's.
Let's keep it PG.
Look, the reality is that all three of us, and Brownie included, wanted to see improved performance against better teams, right?
Yeah.
And Leicester has been far and away the best team in the division, and we dominated, I think, every phase of play in that match. I think I had some questions about the goalkeeping, but even at the end, I mean, I think an argument can be made that you should stop something at your near post at the end of the. I think we're sort of blowing up how good that save was a little bit because we haven't seen a lot of it. But that being said, Meslier still made a big save, and that was one of the things that we said he has to do, right? And so I think everybody sort of answered the bell. I will take 1-0 victories over top teams in the division any day.
There's something very satisfying about a 1-0 away, isn't there? Something very satisfying about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say before we go to Oscar, everybody talks about, we don't do well down in Leicester, do we? Enough with the superstition. It's not real. They're not the same players. It doesn't matter. We can go anywhere. If we have good enough players and a good enough manager, we can go anywhere in this division and win. Anywhere.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And I think you bang on, Gabe. I think with the quality that we have at our disposal, Leeds can. I mean, we know. I mean, we've done it. The top two teams in the division, Oscar. We've gone to their backyards and we've beaten them. What was your assessment, mate? I saw your reaction on all Leeds TV. You seemed overjoyed. Are you still sort of in that mind frame, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's affected Ipswich a little bit as well. In the 2 games since, I think it's obviously we've made that little statement. I think we've needed to make that statement pretty much most of the season, really. We've won the games we should win in general, but I think that's the first. That and obviously Ipswich earlier in the season, the ones where you look at and think, theoretically, that's our 2 toughest games of the season. We've already won, kind of thing. And I know it's not how it works in the Championship, but we deserve to win both games for me. I think, in that sort of half an hour spell at Ipswich when we went 3-1 up, that was still the best half I've seen off us all season. The first, the best sort of spell, we just completely blew them away. And it was like that in the first 20 minutes on Friday. And it was a dominant 1-0. It was a controlled 1-0. It was everything about us. I never really felt Leicester were going to equalise, to be honest. And, even the Meslier save, it kind of came out of nothing, really. It wasn't any real sustained pressure off Leicester. We looked more like to make it 2-0 than they did make it 1-1. And we were just so controlled and dominant. And, to put that performance together, it reminds me a bit of when Leeds played Norwich in that first Bielsa season when Farke was managing Norwich. We played like Norwich did that night. I think a lot of people remember that game. It was an onslaught. It came out of nothing. It was an absolute onslaught. And the most impressive thing for me was the press. I think we've said all season we haven't seen a press, really. There is no press. And then Friday night, it just all came together. Whether that was because Leicester tried to play out the back a lot more than what other teams have faced so far this season have done. But you saw how well Russell can press, how well Somerville can press. Piroe, maybe.
Don't do it.
We'll wait for that.
Hold it in reserve.
Fine. We almost, it feels like quite a derogatory thing to say, but we almost hid Piroe out of the press kind of thing. And Ampadu and Kamara kind of took his place and pushed really high up the pitch whenever we were pressing. And then when Leicester did kind of bypass it, we got back into a shape, back into a block, and made it really difficult for them to sort of take us down, really. And it was just such an impressive disciplined performance that I didn't really think we had in us at this point in the season. And to see us do that is really impressive. Even, if you look at the wings as well, Mavi Didi and Fatawu, they did have moments in the game, don't get me wrong, where they did get the better of Gray and Byram, but they got back into it. Byram had a pretty poor sort of 10, 15-minute spell where I thought, he's on a booking, he's actually at risk of possibly getting a second yellow here. But then second half, Fatawu got nothing out of Byram. I think overall, Archie Gray won the battle against Mavi Didi, and I think that's the best. That is the best the team's played against Leicester by far this season.
Well, I think as well, Oscar, there needs to be a lot of, and we went into the game, didn't we? And me, Gabe, and yourself were saying it's a massive game for Daniel Tharker. Huge game because Southampton don't think he got it right. Stoke argument, he didn't get it right. There's been definitely suggestions this season that maybe the in-game management hasn't been great. Have his subs been consistently good? I don't know. However, he answered all those critics, I thought, on Friday night. He managed the game so well. And do you know what? What a lot of people aren't pointing out, when Sam Byram was on that yellow card, it was so interesting. I mentioned it on my review of the game, that Byram started to invert. He started almost becoming a third centre-back. And suddenly, you started getting Somerville and Kamara fronting up Fatawu. And it didn't become a situation where it was Byram one-on-one against Fatawu, which would
be... He was great too, wasn't he, Connor Byram? And we were saying at halftime, take him off. I think that was the smart wisdom, but this is why they pay Farke the big bucks, right? He made a call, and it really worked out. And, I mean, it was his header that ultimately resulted in a goal, wasn't it? So, I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, John B says some great folks in the chat, to be fair. It's all we expect, John B, from the One Leeds Army. Please make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, and commenting as always. Richard says Ipswich have dropped 4 points and more drop points to come. Yeah, it's interesting.
You look at Ipswich and, I know we're going to go on to Ipswich in a second, but they're a lot more reliant on the press than us. I think we can control the game. I don't think Ipswich could have gone to Leicester and done what we've done. I don't think they've got that control to them. I think it's all about the press or nothing. I think they're involved in a lot of high-scoring games. We saw last night, we saw against Birmingham. How many games have they won? 4-2, 3-2, 4-3, etc., etc.
We were saying it. We were saying it before the game started, didn't we? All the home games are 4-2, 4-3, 3-2. It's always the same. That's going to turn.
Is it sustainable? That's the thing. I think what Leeds are doing right now is a lot more sustainable. And I think the fact that we've beaten Leicester away and our two biggest difference makers in the attack, I actually thought by their standards, and don't get me wrong, they were still really, really good. They've actually quieter than what they've been in recent weeks. I think Gigi Rutter, even though he scored, I thought he actually had one of his quieter games compared to the last couple of weeks because the standards are so high. I'm thinking if he was absolutely 10 out of 10 on it, Crescencio of Somerville as well, a couple of moments where there's that slight bit of indecision, but again, if Crescencio of Somerville had been fully on it, I think that's a
that's a great point, Oscar.
Yeah, I think you've got to say as well, Fars for Leicester, I thought had an outstanding game. They don't often spot opposition players that much, but Fars and Pereira on that side, they stopped a lot of counter-attacks themselves. And on the other day, we battered Leicester there, like 2 or 3-0. Honestly, I think it quite easily could have got out of hand that game in our favour. And you never know, even Leicester might sort of get a bit of a knockback from that kind of game. The fact they've had it pretty easy, they've had it all their own way so far. We've seen that, they've lost at home to Hull, they've lost at home to us now. When they do go behind, are they able to find a plan B? Is there a plan B to what Maresca does? It's, listen, I still think Leicester will win the league, but all of a sudden there's that little bit of doubt, I think, certainly with Ipswich, and maybe a little bit of doubt with Leicester from a result like that.
Well, you almost think as well, like, obviously structurally, the framework and the system that is Ipswich, it's fundamentally going to work for longer than what Leicester are doing right now. Because Leicester, for me, and it was so obvious in that game, the blueprint, and listen, you'll win championship games by doing this, of course, but the blueprint is to pass to their Premier League players, which are the two wingers, evidently, and see what happens. Like, there was nothing centrally. And I don't think that was Leeds' game plan. I don't think Leeds were just nullifying them centrally, even though the midfield battle was pretty much, in my opinion, won single-handedly by Glenn Kamara. Not to give any disrespect to Ethan, but I thought Kamara was excellent. But I think they were, when they weren't even being pressed, they were just forcing the ball out wide continuously, those 1v1s. And it was just interesting that, when you watch Ipswich, it was probably like, formerly of Leeds United when we had the so-called average players in the first season under Bielsa. It was the system which was grinding those better teams down, because there were better quality teams than Leeds in the division at that point. But it's just interesting with Leicester, I find, that it is just based on those two, in my opinion, and maybe a sprinkle of Dewsbury Hall centrally, picking up those second balls and putting a couple of lovely finishes in. That is going to get them promoted. I think that is indicative, in my opinion, of how average the league is, how below.
The argument can be made about us too, Connor. Like, honestly, I think that as much as Farke's system we know and Farke's management works at this level, we're a very ordinary team with his system, without a number of players in the team. Especially, let's just see how we do if we have to take Joe Rodon out of the team and pair Pascal with Liam Cooper for a whole season. I think that we're having different discussions about performances. So it is one of those. This is a division where, quite simply, it's not as so competitive to say that teams via systems are going to have a fighting chance. It's the best players and the best teams are going to win. The places
I do think, though, Gabe, maybe functionally going forward, we have a lot more ways to win games. I think when I've watched Leicester this season, I think a lot of it is one way. And, if Mavididi has a poor game,
right,
Leicester have a poor game, I think. And you saw that the other night. I think with Leeds, if one of our players, Rutter, the other night, even though he scored the goal, he was quiet. Piroe, who we'll get onto, if one of those four has a poor game, Leeds will still get the result.
Yeah, I think it's more output. I think in our front four, there's more output there. I think you only have to look at Vardy and Iheanacho. How limited were they in the game? It wasn't just because of how well we defended. I think it's just Leicester's style is very, the passing is very lateral. There's not a lot of line breaking. It's very, all about trying to force the opposition back as much as possible and very patient. And you can see Maresca is like a Pep disciple. He's worked under Pep, for a long, long time. You can see that with the way Leicester play as such. But that bit of quality, it's Dewsbury Hall really. If Dewsbury Hall has a quiet game, Leicester have a quiet game. There's no doubt about that. So it's, but yeah, I think we have a lot more ways to win games, and it's showing really. It's showing. We have won lots of different types of games this season. We're battered teams. Huddersfield, Watford. We've got that win obviously against Leicester and Ipswich. Quite tight margins, and then we've come back from behind at Norwich. We've shown we can win in different game states, different situations. We can find ways around it, and yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think the thing is, with our record with Rodon and Pascal at the back defensively is absolutely outstanding. The goals this season conceded, I know we conceded, I think 16 and 15, which is quite a lot. I still think we need to get that down. But if you take just the games Rodon and Pascal played alongside each other, we're well below a goal a game.
That's the trick, isn't it? Like we have all these ways to beat us, and they're only play Luke Ayling at right back, don't play Joe Rodon at center back. Well, but we have a number of single points of failure, don't we? Like we are one of those teams in this league. There are teams that if they have a couple injuries, I think at defensive positions, I think they have enough cover. We're just very the way to beat us is to hope there's an injury to the center half or right back. Like honestly,
yeah, exactly. We've got Jed Spence very weak back as well.
That is so exciting though. Like to have Jed Spence, just like when I'm playing FIFA, these upgrades cost me a lot of money. They cost me a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of time. When I'm looking at from standardized right back, we're looking at Luke Ayling to Jed Spence. That is, I was out with my mate who was a Sunderland fan the other night, and he was like, "You've got
a Sunderland fan."
Oh, I've got a lot of Sunderland.
Poor guy.
Mates, yeah.
Well, you don't admit on your YouTube channel, that mate.
Hey, to be fair, but I don't think Sunderland are that bad aside in this.
I think it's harder to be a Sunderland fan though than it is to be a Leeds fan. It has to be.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
shout out Connor's friend.
It's gonna be interesting to see, definitely. Yeah.
But not to be disrespectful to Luke Ayling, but the one lesser chance comes from Luke Ayling switching off on the back post. If we're not to be too
been in the game for 3 minutes. Yeah.
That's it. We were completely limiting Leicester at that point, and then that one, it is 1 second he switches off for Dewsbury Hall gets the wrong side of him, and we need a wonder save. And you never know, Meslier, confidence-wise, off the back of a save like that, we know he's a confidence goalkeeper. Let's see if he can kick on now as well. But I'm a little bit, don't want to get too carried away because Plymouth at home, we know after it switch away.
Sake, I don't.
We drew with Sheffield Wednesday, so I'm not getting too. And Plymouth have a lot of attacking talent as well. You know, more than
Plymouth Argyle. We better smash them. We better smash Plymouth Argyle.
Game,
I'm not having this. I'm not having this. I know why we're fearful of it. I get it. I'm a Leeds fan, but
it's just how great how American you sounded then. We should smash them.
We should smash
them.
Smash them. I'm gonna pull out some guns and start shooting them at the air. We should smash them.
USA. I believe that we will win.
But honestly, I know it would be like, and all of our fans will say, "Oh, it would be so Leeds to lose against Plymouth," and it would. But Christ, for our mental health, it just has to stop. It has to stop. We need to be able to beat teams like Plymouth Argyle after we've just beaten Leicester.
Oh, we have to follow it up. Absolutely. Have to keep the pressure on Ipswich and Leicester.
Get out of here, Paul. Ban Paul from the street. I had a great Jesse Marsh voice AI for a while. I put him on the intro to my own videos. All you have to have it say is do things like commitment and to fight. Like say those words.
Clarity,
and
as well.
Commitment, and
you've got to remember as well. The goal is in the middle. As well. You
have to do that bemused smile he does. He goes like this. He's like
until he said that, and I was watching that press conference. Like I had no idea the goal was in the middle of the pitch.
No, I'd never thought of that.
I've been telling Brownie where the goal is for the past years after that clip. Like, hey, Brown, I'll just message him. Hey, Brownie, remember the goal's in the middle of the pitch.
No, if you've seen Brownie play football, you know he can finish.
Yeah, he knows where the goal is.
Yeah, he can finish.
Yeah. I totally forgot about Jed Spencer's Maximilian. Yeah, exactly. We keep doing it, and hopefully that's going to be a nice little bring back to Leeds when that does happen. Switches off. It's harsh. It's easier to outjump when you're running towards the ball.
But it's always Luke Ayling, Vic. It's always Luke Ayling. Like I was thinking about this the other day because I saw people on Twitter saying the same thing, Vic, that people are being harsh. Like you lose 50-50s. It's difficult. But as a defender, do you know when you know you're a really good defender? When they're not talking about you because you win the challenges. Joe Rodon looks ordinary because he doesn't get beat time and time again. Pascal Struck looked like he had a pretty quiet match. Now he was really good. And that's what happens. Oh, God. This is going to kill me.
Be fair.
That's what happens when you're a good defender. When you're a bad defender, for every single challenge, you're right. You can't expect to win every challenge. But why is it always Luke Ayling? Why is he always the one getting skinned? Why is he always the one losing?
He's always had that weakness on the back post, Luke Ayling, I think. Even when
you're a defender and you're supposed to defend the back posts. As a right back, that's your job on
I don't think this is an excuse for him. I don't think athleticism has ever been his strongest point, to be honest.
The argument here is like, well, guys, he's not a very good footballer, really.
Well, that's a different conversation. Let's Gavin, I don't think has he. I'm pretty sure he hasn't said that. I think he said the opposite, Gavin. So don't be putting that into the ether. If chat wants to follow that up and give a bit of confirmation there, that would be appreciated.
If that's true. I'm going to neck this in one sip.
Yeah, we do not want that. But anyway, let's try to stay a little bit positive about the whole situation as well. It's great to see. We're just discussing Ipswich and all that sort of jazz. And the big thing to notice, in my opinion, if any of you watched Ipswich or if any of you have watched Ipswich over the past 2 times, for the first time ever, squad selection has been a little bit of an issue for them. 2 or 3 players out per game, including Wes Burns. As soon as that started to happen, Ipswich with a very strong record on the road. I watched the Birmingham game. In that first half, they were absolutely terrible. In the Rotherham game at points, they were really, really bad. Still 8 points clear, which is mental. But they've got to really bounce back. The pressure is on them this weekend, Oscar, with Swansea at home.
Yeah, and Swansea, to be fair, have improved quite a bit. In terms of they're not particularly brilliant, but I think they're a team that can cause you problems, definitely. But I didn't see the Birmingham game. I know you were mentioning the group chat, midway through the Birmingham game and that. Like you weren't too happy with Wayne Rooney's tactics in that one, I don't think, mate.
It's not that I'm unhappy with his tactics. I just think he's one of the worst managers I've ever seen coach at this level.
He's the worst manager in the league. And the fact is, Kieran McKenna couldn't outwit him in that kind of situation. And Rotherham as well. That is 2 pretty bad draws. Birmingham's form is dreadful. Rotherham are dreadful. I saw that game yesterday. That's a team I'm hoping. I'm not going to get overconfident, but we played them straight after the international break. That's a game where, again, we've got to be looking to go there and be ruthless, really.
Yep.
Well, I just think Ipswich, they always give you a chance in games. Rotherham, they never properly killed it off. When you go 1-0 up, 2-1 up at Rotherham, just keep the ball. But I don't think Ipswich are built to do that. They're built to play direct and press and be involved in, real basketball type matches. And I think over a season, it didn't necessarily happen to them in League One, but I think the difference in quality between this level and League One is huge. So I think they got away with it a little bit more. I think maybe get away with it's maybe a bit of a harsh way of putting it, but there's definite weaknesses there to what Ipswich do. In terms of the energy levels, I don't know about the Birmingham game, Connor, but they certainly seemed to yesterday have no particular energy in the press. Rotherham just got through pretty easily. Played the ball long into Hugill, and it just stuck. It just stuck every single time. So there's definite weaknesses there to that Ipswich team that start to tell, and maybe a bit of nerves as well. The fact that all of a sudden it's down to 8 points, and it could have been as many as 15, sort of like this time last week. So
yeah,
Oscar, out of curiosity, I have to know.
That's also an important point, isn't it? That it could have been 15 points. It really could. So that's important. Yeah.
Oscar, you're a tall guy. You ever played basketball?
Yes, but not particularly well. Yeah. I played it a couple of times. Yeah.
Nice one.
Was there a point to that, Gabe? Or
he said Ipswich played up and down like sort of a basketball style.
Basketball's very much there's no real control to it. It's
just credibility checking. That's all.
Just such an innocent question, which I didn't expect.
I want to know more about my
basketball over here, mate. As you will well know, being over here, it's so rare that you play basketball at any level, really. Unless you're just like a freak of nature and 6'7". Apologies to anyone in the chat who's 6'7". So these are the fixtures we've got coming up. Interesting. Obviously Leeds with Plymouth at home, then Rotherham away.
2 wins in a row. That should
be. If you look at that, for me, up until the Sunderland game, and Sunderland have got an appalling record at home, those 6 are really, really favourable for Leeds United, aren't they?
I think Middlesbrough's coming on a little bit.
Yeah, they are.
But they're a little bit chaotic as well. So for me, Plymouth Argyle win, Rotherham, that should be a win. We really should beat Swansea, but I could see us drawing that match. Middlesbrough, I'd prefer to see a draw or win. Blackburn, I've seen play brilliantly. Then I've seen them be horrible. So I like our chances in that match as well. As you like to say, we're always going to get a team's best shot. So we'd expect to get Blackburn's best. But we're getting to the point now, guys. Where the wheat's been sort of separated from the chaff. We know what's poor in this division. We know the teams that actually have something for us. And that's not to say that, the results always go predictably. They don't, but on paper, the top 4 teams in this division are miles ahead of the rest. And we really should be going into, I don't think we can have the expectation to win every single match, but you see Leicester has that expectation, right? They expect their players to win. And I think that we should start, given the assets we have in this team now, and given that we have gotten over the hump of kind of a difficult start because of the kind of summer we had and the drama and the exits and just the acquisition, full acquisition. I think, it's time to start expecting better.
Interesting. Damar's just put it. Piroe to get a hat trick versus Swansea.
I guess now's the time, isn't it? Chat about
we want a bit of an interaction here, everybody. And just to preface this, I don't want this to turn, overly negative. Leeds are in a great spot at this moment in time, and we want to talk about positives as well as negatives here. And I think it's just a really interesting topic of conversation. Joël Piroe. Is it 5 goals in 15 games? I think. Obviously cost Leeds 16 million quid in the summer. Still, for me, it's not really clicking at the moment. Obviously, we won't mention Patrick Bamford yet because we don't want to get Gabe hot. But we'll come to you first, Oscar. What's the story with your Piroe at the minute? Are you the Phil Hay said earlier, didn't he? He said he must be doing something good, which I thought was an interesting quote for Leeds to be winning all the time. So I don't directly think
it's also interesting journalism as well. Well, he must be doing something good.
I don't directly think that he's been doing. I don't think you can just contribute to an attack by just being there if the team win. If that makes sense. But what are your overriding thoughts, mate?
Yeah, if you look at Joël Piroe, just purely in terms of output, cheers, man. he's on course for about 20 goals, which is, kind of what I was kind of expecting. I think when you watch Joël Piroe, if you saw any of him at Swansea or any of the highlights of him, there's not really much difference between that and what he's doing at Leeds. In terms of role, in terms of general influence on the games. He was someone who Swansea fans described as who you couldn't see for 89 minutes from time to time, and then he just pop up with a last-minute winner or a wonder strike like the one against Bristol City. It is the type of player he is. A little bit like Rodrigo last season, really. In terms of the output, you couldn't question, but in terms of in fact, I actually just saw that. It's very similar scenario to Rodrigo. But you can't argue the fact that presenter of Somerville's banging goals in, Jorginho Rutter's the most creative player in the league, both on the eye and statistically. Joël Piroe's got a decent goal return. Dan James is starting to get a decent goal return. So it is gelling in that front four. I think it can go up another level. I think Joël Piroe especially can go up another level. But for me, the way it's working fine. I'm one of these people that believes if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. I don't think it is broke necessarily. I do think the thing with Joël Piroe is if he wasn't getting chances, despite playing a little bit out of position, I'd be concerned. But he is getting the chances. He had 2 or 3 against Huddersfield. He had that big one early doors against Leicester. That great save against Stoke. Can't really remember as much on the Norwich game. Probably a bit more quiet on that one. He is getting the chances, and I think he is a good finisher as well. So logically, he is going to start scoring goals again. I don't think there's any issue with his confidence. I just don't think he was ever going to be that player that makes you go, wow. Like a Gigi Rutter or a Somerville. I don't think he runs the game in that kind of way. I think it's all about, his game's all about just being in the right place at the right time. And he's done that a couple of times for us already. But it doesn't concern me massively as long as the output comes back. As long as he, gets back on the goal trail. But I think he will. But it's definitely a debate about it. In terms of you've seen the form of Archie Gray at this moment in time. You've seen the form of Kamara. Could we go to a midfield 3 and go over front 3? Could we change the system at some point? I don't think we should do it now, but it's an option. If we want to become even more controlled, more possession-based, it's an option to do that. I don't think the option is replace Joël Piroe for Patrick Bamford, which I've seen suggested. I don't see any reasons to do that, personally, because Patrick Bamford certainly can't play in the 10 role. He'd have to play up top, and I just don't see any reason, more than anything, to move Gigi Rutter from this free role he's playing in the number 9. I don't see any reason to change him from there. He seems happiest in that position. He's played everywhere else. He's had a couple of games off the right early in the season, a few games in the 10 in pre-season. He's never looked anything like as good as what he does up top. And I think the fact of the matter is, Rutter and Piroe clearly like playing together. And I think there's no coincidence Rutter's form since Piroe's come into the side. That Ipswich game, from the first minute, he's looked a different player for Leeds United. And I think Joël Piroe does deserve some credit for that. I just don't think he's ever going to be a player that makes you go, wow, and gives you 9 or 10 out of 10 performances. I think it's all about what he does off the ball, getting into clever positions. He's got a good footballing IQ. A couple of times in that Leicester game, he started off the counter-attacks from dropping deep, getting on the ball and spraying it. There is quality there to Joël Piroe, but I think I described it in the group chat as Joël Piroe is that five-a-side player who has no athleticism, turns up, and just has a fantastic footballing IQ, and then just pings one in from 30 yards out of nothing. He's that player that winds you up like I don't know what if he's in your team, but he'll produce that moment of magic for you, and you can't complain with that. Just the problem is, last couple of weeks when he's had those chances to do that, quite unlike Joël Piroe, he's not took those chances. But I think
a lot of it as well, Oscar, is it's the makeup of that front 4. Let's be honest, is rapid. It's so dynamic.
Yeah.
And I'd almost suggest that he's a little bit odd in that front 4. And I do think you need a bit of a balance, someone who's a little bit different to the others. It just feels like when we're transitioning, when we're on that counter-attack, it is quick. It's lightning.
It's the 100 metre, like the four it's the, what's the name of the team 100 metres, team 400 metres, isn't it? It's, and Joël Piroe just turns up and...
But I think a lot of the time he's almost like the weirdo out of that group. He's a little bit of a differential. He doesn't keep up with that pace, and I think sometimes it can come across as he is a little bit slow. He is a little bit lethargic. I think sometimes you see with the press, he's a little bit ineffective in getting there quickly. Whereas I think Rutter's very effective with it. I think Somerville, as we saw the other night, was very, very good with it as well. I do wonder if there can be a little bit of a change in his game, whether or not that be that is positional, or whether or not that's it being coached into him. I do wonder if there's a little bit of an evolution of Piroe's game that can happen with the right coaching. But I think there is, to be honest. I think his ceiling is extremely high. I just wonder if we've really got that position sorted for him yet, because I think, as me and Gabe have spoken about numerous times, this, the ceiling of this guy is very, very good. And you just wonder.
I agree with that, definitely. I think with any team, though, it's difficult to get the best out of every single player. Even in that season we got promoted, 2019-2020, we obviously Jack Harrison made an impact. Bamford in the end, got the goals to get promoted. Pablo was unbelievable. Click played his part. Calvin Phillips played his part. But you don't remember people like, say, Helder Costa, who was quite inconsistent that season. It's difficult to get the best out of every single player, because ultimately, if you put everything around Rutter, it takes a bit out of Piroe, and vice versa kind of thing. It's difficult to get the very best out of every single player. And I think ultimately it's about what works best for the team. But it's definitely a point to debate. Do we bring in a natural 10 in January, or do we try and play Archie Gray in that kind of spot, or try something a little bit different, maybe a Nonto in that spot? There is different options there.
Let me jump off Oscar's point here with, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's just look at some statistics here. So Leeds have played 15 matches, but Piroe's only played 12 of them. So Somerville started for 12 matches. Piroe started for 12 matches. Rutter for 13. Dan James for 10. Right? Yeah. Somerville is on track for 22 goals this season if he continues at his current clip. Piroe's on track for 20. Rutter's on track for between 12 and 15. And Dan James is on track for the same thing. So that typically doesn't happen, right? Where you have multiple guys firing 15 or over goals just on the average.
And I think Farke's also said if you score 75 goals, you go up, don't you? So
yes, right. Yeah. And here's the thing. All of these guys, Somerville's young. Rutter's young. Dan James, how old is Dan James? He looks like he's
25.
Okay, so he's not really young. Piroe's 24, right? And he looks like the old man of the group, right? So there's not, and when Nonto comes in and plays, he's obviously quite young as well. So in a block of 12 games with young players who maybe haven't all quite developed a sense of chemistry, and to be honest, like a consistency to their games. As great as Somerville's been, like in the first half of last match, we were kind of wringing our hair, weren't we? And he's been brilliant so far. So there are lots of indicators that the best is yet to come from all these guys. It's going to take a little bit of time to put it together, especially Farke, who's a systems guy. The one thing I want to push back against is if you're running next to Jaden Anthony or running next to Somerville or Jorginho, you're going to look slower. But this idea that he's lazy because he doesn't sprint all the time, for every time, there are loads of players who just sort of
I didn't say he was lazy.
No, nobody here said, but this is a discourse involving all the Leeds fans as well. This idea that he's oafish and lazy and just kind of lumbers around. It's just not true. One of the reasons he's in the right spot all the time is because he's not running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He sees where the space is and he goes and occupies it. It's one of those things where, if you were to tell me, we just take performance out of it. All right, Connor. All right, Oscar. At the end of the season, you're going to have 2 players over 20 goals and 2 other guys right around 15. And these are your starting attackers. You'd say, fantastic. I don't even need to see the performances. We're going up. So it's one of those things where I think that it's easy to forget. Anybody calling for Pat Bamford, neither of the two of you are, but anybody calling for Pat Bamford, believe what your eyes have told you guys. Pat Bamford isn't good enough. Not for this team at this division. Certainly not in the, if we were up the division higher. And all the things that Piroe's frustrating, Pat Bamford doesn't do any better, except for maybe hold the ball for playing long ball, which we're not going to do.
Okay, nice place to finish on that.
I think just one more thing on that is, if you look at Farke's Norwich team, Timu Pukki scored most of the goals. So I think we all agree that Buendia was the one that really stood out in that Norwich team, the one that really got you off your seat, like Rutter or Somerville did. Yeah. Pukki didn't really ever get you off your seat. Most of the time, again, Pukki was a little bit like Piroe. You hardly ever saw it. Yes, he's probably more mobile. I'd argue Piroe's more technical than a Pukki. I think he's got much better ball at his feet. Much better finisher, much better ball striker on both feet as well.
As well.
He's not going to hit 30.
You've got to remember, Norwich got promoted and Pukki absolutely delivered for him. But it was never like, wow, that guy's unbelievable. He's far too good for this level. It's just he was in the right place at the right time and delivered. And I think it's the same kind of case with Joël Piroe. I think Joël Piroe has got more to his game. So I'm not concerned in the slightest at this moment in time. Just the good thing is, if it does come to a situation where, say, don't get me wrong, if we go another 4 or 5 games and Joël Piroe keeps losing the ball, or it feels like we're playing with 10 men because our press isn't very effective, we can drop Joël Piroe because we've got 3 midfielders who are in excellent form, Gray, Ampadu, Kamara, and maybe even Gruev might be more integrated into the team at that point. So there is other options to change system. Of course, the one big thing is if we did sign, say, like Emiri in the summer, that's the way as you're saying, Emiri right now can drop into the 10 and you can maybe switch things up a little bit, but we haven't got a natural 10, so I don't see any real big reason right now to change it. It's working, as Gabe said. If we maintain that over a season, yes, every player at some point is going to have a drop off in form. All
100%.
4 of our attackers will have a drop off. I think Joël Piroe's having this right now, and I think it's sort of highlighted a little bit by how well Rutter and Somerville have played. The fact that they're playing absolutely unbelievably well, and Joël Piroe maybe dropped off a little bit. It's kind of like highlighted it a little bit more, if you like.
And when was the last time we had a striker score 5 goals in 12 while playing poorly?
Yeah, exactly.
Are we just on another topic? I think we rounded that off pretty nicely. Are we looking? I'll just get into a couple of comments first, but I want to get onto Archie Gray as well. Obviously, before Jed Spence coming back into the side at some point, I want to get both of your thoughts and everybody in the chat. If you would now keep Archie Gray at right back. Jack Dominic says, nearly at 30,000 subscribers. Connor, thank you so much. Please make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Everybody, there's going to be shed tons of content now. Let's put it that way. Evening Guys says, Trends 74, living in Plymouth and being a Plymouth and Leeds fan. I can't wait for Saturday. Whatever the score, this Jana is gonna have a good day. Well, kudos to you, mate. What a trip that is going to be. Thanks for tonight, Connor. Great content as always. Really appreciate that. John says, please smash the like button. That smashing of the like button. It's always a good YouTube.
It's got to be aggressive.
Listen, no. We've fallen into the sewer of millennial YouTuber, Gen Z YouTuber, whatever it is. I sound like a boomer now. Connor put on the banner cooking, that we're cooking now. When in the world did the Twitterverse or the footballverse start saying cook for we're going to cook? Oh, Jorginho's in. He's going to cook. McKinney's going to cook it.
No, I love the phrase. When it says Russell's just cooked him, I love that phrase. I love it.
Why?
Apparently this is Gen Z as well. The love heart like this. Apparently it's not like that anymore. That's a boomer and that's a Gen Z.
Because it has to look like a half gang sign now. Is that it? Good Lord. Get off my lawn with this. Unbelievable.
He's fuming.
38 years old, everybody. Nearly 40.
We're cooking.
Anyway.
What say that can't actually cook?
Gabe.
What?
Russell dribbled past him or Russell just cooked him. What sounds Agfa cooked him?
Does it have to be slang? Can we not just use our words, Oscar?
I don't know why you sound so much more American on this stream.
I don't know why either. I can feel it as well, but you know what?
Okay, so before we get into Plymouth, I just want to get your thoughts on Archie. Just mentioned previously there. Are we looking at a scenario here, really briefly, lads, where Archie Gray is now Leeds United's fully fledged right back until Mr. Spence comes back? Oscar?
Yeah, probably are. I think just be careful not to overplay him. I know we've got, obviously, after the international break, a week where we've got sort of 3 games in 6 days. Just be careful on that, maybe bring in Shackleton for one of those games, potentially. But for me, Archie Gray's been really good there. Not long term, but when Spence is back, Gray back into midfield, competing with Ampadu and Kamara. Works absolutely fine by me.
Lovely.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think Jed Spence is going to probably take some time to get up to full fitness. And the reality is that even when he is fully fit, this is a...
Come on.
This is a long season, and this is a physically difficult division. Glenn Kamara's not going to play every match. It'd be nice for Ethan Ampadu to be able to sit down once in a while. Archie Gray is not going to lack for opportunities. I think the best thing for him long-term is to play his best position, which is the center of the park. But in the meantime, all right, Lee. Lee, this is why you're sick. I quite like your your photo as well. Yeah, that's thrown me off majorly.
It's gone really quickly. Just gone.
I don't know why it was that photo. It just took me right out of it. I was just like, oh. I thought there was a joke to be made there about a bad opinion being sick, and I was like, I just abandoned it. I was like, no, we're not going to shoot him for his comment.
It just looks so easy to throw you off there. You just went.
I absolutely just like, yeah.
It's that meme where it says, "My guy's frozen."
Yeah, honestly, you could see the pinwheel of death like in my eyes. Like the brain wasn't working anymore. Yeah, Archie Gray's the right back until Spence comes back, and then for me, he's third center mid. It's a long season. We're gonna need some rotation.
Okay, you make us laugh. Right, okay, well, let's get on to Plymouth. I want score predictions from everybody in the chat. Leeds United playing Plymouth Saturday, 3:00. Superstition, does it get in the way, or are we going to batter this Plymouth side and stick 4 or 5 past them? Who knows? Oscar, what are your thoughts on this one, mate? Obviously, Whittaker, their flying winger at this moment in time, probably one of the 5%ers in this division in terms of how good he has been. But can Leeds United quell that? Do you think it's going to be a victory for the Whites this weekend?
Yeah, I think we'll win. I think it'll be a good game, quite an open game. I don't think Plymouth will just sit off us. I don't think they're really built to do that. Obviously Whittaker, Azaz, Hardy, Ballymumba as well. It's good. It's a good front four, front three, if you like. There, a lot of goals in the team. I think they scored 26 and 15, which is pretty good, especially where they are in the league. I think it's a bit of a false position, but I'll go 3-1. I think we might concede, which seems a bit negative, but I just think they've got a lot more attacking talent than what we typically face against a team that's down there. But I think Piroe will get back on the score sheet as well, and hopefully Gigi Rutter will get that first goal. The mad stat of Gigi Rutter never scoring at Ellen Road so far. Plenty of assists, but no goals so far. I think that will come to an end.
Are we taking... I kind of like it, and he's really taking it upon himself. It's like this cooking thing. But, Gabe, what's your thoughts on Oscar calling Rutter Gigi Rutter?
If I tried to control Oscar's behavior, like at a like a nitpicking level, the man can't be tamed. He's a man of the world.
It's not even Jorginho, or it's not Rutter. It's Gigi Rutter.
Like Gigi Buffon is the only.
Yeah, Somerville's Cree.
Any more?
Cree Somerville.
Any more?
What other nicknames have you got?
DJ, Dan James.
Really? Do you call him DJ?
JP.
You're not actually using these.
Give off.
Big Glenn in the middle.
We need to get this on a mug, some One Leeds merch.
Actually, Oscar, what's Pascal's surname?
Oh no, he's done me here.
Because mid-season or so far you've tweaked your pronunciation.
I've been curious about it.
Yeah.
Go on, what's your favorite? No, it's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. You've just
What was said? I think don't even know.
When did you start saying Struick? Because it did happen a couple weeks ago. People say it in the comments, and I was like, "What did you say?" At first, I thought it was like Struick. At first, I thought it was just a slip of the tongue, and then you said it. I was like, "Oh, okay, it's a new thing for Oscar."
Let's call him Pask instead. That'll do you.
Pasks, right? Pasks.
Gigi Rutter, Mr. Mario, keep it going.
There
we go. Right, so Oscar's gone with a 3-1. Nige D says, "Welcome to Oscar World." It's Oscar's World. I'm in it. Gabe,
it's not so called Rutter Gigi. It's you assuming about it.
Yeah, it sounds very.
We can credit you singularly. Listen, I have a bit of an unhinged prediction here. I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm just saying I think that this is going to be one of those matches that Farkas sort of overthinks. He's going to mix up the lineup a little bit because, Rodon did pick up an injury a week or so ago. He came back in. If we start Liam Cooper, we will beat Plymouth.
I thought you just said we will lose.
No, we will lose. No, we will win, but it'll be something like 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2 is actually a rip. Oh, I can see a 3-2.
That's what I'm saying. I feel it in my bones. It's going to be one of those like Shackleton at right back.
Yeah, 3-2.
You think he'll switch it up that much? I think it'll be the rare occasion where it stays.
If you're asking me if I had to bet money on it, Oscar, I would say we're probably going to go the same. It's going to be something like 2-0. But there's 30% of my brain that tells me Farkas is going to do something weird here to try to rest his players. and reassert the dominance of his system.
I think it's more likely when we have the 3 games in 6 days. He tends to do that. You know, we have the Saturday Tuesday, like the Stoke game's a great example where we switch things up. But I don't think. I hope you know we don't switch anything up. But I think for a Friday to Saturday, you know, 8-game gap, I can't see it being much rotation.
And it's the international break straight afterwards as well, so we'll get much rest.
That's annoying, though. Just to mention, that worked in Ipswich's favour very nicely for them. Not too good for us. You know, Ipswich got a bit of a rest now. Not that many internationals. They started to tire a little bit in the press. Bit annoying that. It's come at a bad time for us, but a good time for Ipswich.
Tell me you can't feel it in the air a little bit that there's a small percentage chance that Farke acts weird.
Yeah, maybe the subs a little bit, but no, I can't see much rotation. Maybe if Joe Rodon's not fully fit, he might go Liam Cooper. But again, I can't see that unless Joe Rodon absolutely can't play.
Fair enough. Yeah, I will go with a 4-2 Leeds win.
4-2, really?
4-2.
Melier?
Nah.
You know, I've said all this. It'll be a Shackleton and Gruev midfield pivot against.
That's going to be in his.
After I've said all this. Gabe's convinced me now that it's been like Gruev and Glenn Kamara.
Gruev at centre half.
Things like that.
Yeah, Ayling comes back in at centre half. Oh, God. Yeah, okay. 4-2, John B says. I really put the cat amongst the pigeons there, Oscar. 4-2. Guys, we are going to leave it there. It's been 51 minutes and 45 seconds. We're going to leave it there. The optimum time. So make sure you catch us on the other side. The Debrief is your weekly show, joined by these 2 fantastic gentlemen every single week. Tomorrow, I will be joined by Mr. David Brown as well, giving you a preview for the Plymouth game in depth. And I'm sure Brownie will be back here with some excellent insight. Guys, we'll be trying to get him on next week as well. He's just a busy boy. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Oscar, Gabe, thanks for joining me. And we will see you in a bit, everybody. Cheers.